Welcome to the Fantasy Football Prophet Podcast, hosted by Craig Phillips and Jeff Torrey. Visit us at fantasyfootballprophet.com. And now your hosts, Craig and Jeff.
Welcome everybody to the Fantasy Football Prophet Podcast. I'm Craig Phillips, sitting across the table from me, or standing across the table from me, as always. It's Jeff Torrey. And today we have a little safe players episode. We're going to do top 5 lists of players that we feel are, relatively safe. These aren't these high upside players, but you have to round out your team with safe players. I've said this a million times, how much more conservative I am with fantasy football. And I listen to other podcasts and I hear all these people talking about upside players and all this stuff. And yeah, that's great. You need upside players. But honestly, for every one upside player you have, you need that safe guy. If the upside player doesn't work out, you got the safe player to plug in while you find somebody else, Because all these, if you drafted all upside players, you would end up with like Tyler Lockett last year, John Brown, those kind of guys. And how'd you probably finish the year?
Right.
Unless you had these other guys around your team to be a little more safe. You can't just go all upside. So that's what kind of we're going to go over. But before that, make sure you check us out on Twitter. We're at the FF Prophet. We're on Instagram at Fantasy Football Prophet. The website's fantasyfootballprophet.com. You can send us an email, fantasyfootballprophet@gmail.com. Make sure you get your reviews in. Check out the review contest. You can win a custom podcast for your league. Just get a review, send it to us. Let us know where you reviewed us, and we'll get you entered into the contest. All right, get right into it. Right to our top 5 list. We'll count them down from 5 to 1. We each have 5 guys. Don't have any clue who yours are.
Exactly. And I don't know who yours are. And as a caveat, though, we did skip about the first 20 players.
Yeah, we're around there. We're kind of like in the...
Yeah. Because let's be honest, the first...
David Johnson's safe, Le'Veon Bell.
Exactly.
So they're safe.
That goes without saying, right?
It's a little bit deeper. It's not we're going crazy, but I don't think we don't have anybody in the top 10 of a position here. I don't believe so. And at least I don't. I don't think you do. I'm close to the 10th, but it's not top 10.
Yeah. I have one guy that would be up there. Well,
I have a borderline guy.
Actually, that's not necessarily true for me. I do have one guy that is very high, but still.
All right, Jeff. Number 5. Who is your first guy?
Number 5. His age worries me a bit, but it's my main man, Frank Gore.
Frank Gore. He's an honorable mention for me.
I was going to say, and let me tell you why. After looking up stats, I was blown away. So you look at Frank Gore, and obviously we know he's very safe. Pretty much every year he's been the workhorse there in Indianapolis. And, his touchdowns have dipped a bit of late. I mean, he's an older back, but he pretty much gets 1,000 yards every single year. And he ranges anywhere from 4 to about 8 touchdowns. But the interesting part is going to another website. I don't know exactly how they do their scoring, but his positional rank since, I'll just count it down. I mean, it's unbelievable. Since 2006 is 4th overall, 9th overall, 13th, 5th, 19th, 12th, 11th, 13th, 17th, 13th, 13th.
That's a running back too every time.
And that is, I get it. He's old.
Yes.
But after looking at those numbers, there's no way I couldn't put him on my top 5 because that is astounding production.
And people are they're so down on Frank Gore, just saying, oh, he's so old, the guy that can't do anything. But you know what? He couldn't do anything for the last 3 years and he's still done. Like he was 33 last year and he had 1,000 yards. I don't think you can predict Frank Gore's downfall.
No.
You just can't. It's hard to say.
And yeah, they do have someone behind him they drafted, but I feel like they've drafted these guys before. And this is what I love about him too. If I can actually find him really quick on here, I'm trying to see his overall, where he's going now. It's not like you have to reach to get him. You can grab this guy and he can be on your bench even. That's how low he goes. And he can get you that kind of production still, I believe. I don't think this is the year he completely falls off. And like I've said before, especially if you're going to use him in the first half of the year, that's beautiful.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with him as just a bye week fill-in. He's a safe bye week fill-in because he's probably going to get you minimum 60 to 70 yards. And if you can just guarantee, if you have a good team, and you can just throw in on a bye week a guy who's going to get you at least 6 to 7 points, you're going to feel okay with that. I mean, yes, Frank Gore is not this upside guy. There's no upside with Frank Gore.
No,
he's just safe.
He's safe.
That's pretty much it.
Good floor.
Yep. All right, my number 5. I don't know if you hate this guy or not. Pierre Garçon. And just here's why.
Yeah.
Pierre Garçon. again, not this player everyone wants to have on their team, but he is the number one player for San Francisco. He is the only. I mean, tell me who's their number 2 receiver?
Curly?
Maybe Marquise Goodwin, probably. Yeah. But that's who it is. Like it's like Marquise Goodwin, and I don't even know Curly's still on the team. I think he probably is.
Yeah, that wide receiving core is pretty. Like,
who's their starting tight end? Do you remember?
McDonald?
Yeah, McDonald. Right? Are you excited about Vance McDonald?
No, I'm not excited about that offense.
Right? Why wouldn't it be? Why is Pierre Garçon not going to be the main target?
They do have to throw to someone.
I mean, Kyle Shanahan has been with Pierre Garçon in the past. At Washington.
True. And
here's Pierre Garçon's target numbers. This is why he's safe. It's targets. It's not like he's going to get all these touchdowns and all this stuff. It's targets. Last year, no one thought about Pierre Garçon for fantasy yet. He still had 114 targets. Wow. Why would that number not go up when he has no competition? And yeah, he's getting up there in age. He'll be 31 this year, but that's still okay for wide receiver. He's not.
Yeah, that's not
wide
bad.
Receivers probably drop like a little bit, like start around 32, 33, but he's still okay. He's not going to really drop this year. He had 114 targets last year, 111 the year before, 105 the year before. So the last 3 years, he's all been right there. I could go back 4 years, but then I could say he had 181 targets. And I know that's but maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, Hoyer's a solid quarterback too. I like Hoyer.
Yeah, that's very true. He is, if he can stay healthy. Every time he gets
they're going to be down. They're going to have to throw the ball.
You know, that's very true. You're kind of talking me into
it.
I get
this is not like
this
not
is
like
wide
his
receiver.
Upside,
but his floor.
He's like my wide receiver 5. I'm saying, like honestly, like this is deep.
He should be safe because of the fact they have to throw him the ball.
And this is what you're not getting Pierre Garçon, and he's not going to be your wide receiver 3. I'm not saying that. I'm saying he's going to be a bye week guy where you go get Pierre Garçon, even if he's on the waivers. I don't care. Or if you just put him on your team and just save him for your bye weeks. Yeah,
right.
I think you're guaranteed, especially if you're in PPR. If you're in PPR, it's a no-brainer to me to get Pierre Garçon. I don't know, because I don't know how many touchdowns he's going to get. I don't expect a lot. And he hasn't had a lot. He had if you go back, actually, he's never had more than 6. This is his career. 4, 6, 6, 4, 5, 3, 6, 3. So that's never going to change. It's not that. It's catches. It's just yards. Just safe. He's going to get you 80 yards and call it a day. Get you 8 points. That's what he is. And he's a back end of the draft guy, though. He's a dollar guy. He's not anything special, but I think it's safe. Again, no, there's probably not much upside here, if any. But he's a safe player, and you're going to get him late because no one cares about Pierre Garçon. So that's pretty much it.
He's in a very good position.
All right, number 4, Jeff.
Number 4 is, and this guy is up there for wide receivers, but he's just very safe, and that's why he made this list, but it's Doug Baldwin.
Okay.
All right, he is the number 1 wide receiver on Seattle. Russell Wilson, very capable. And the truth is, unless Lockett stays healthy for once, even with Jimmy Graham coming on last year, having a good season, he still had 94 catches. The last 2 years when he's really been that number 1 guy, he's over 1,000 yards each time.
Yep.
And that touchdown number is way different. He went from 14 to 7. Yeah. I think he's more of that 7 guy. That 14, I think, was a little bit of a fluky thing, but you never know. But as soon as he really got into his stride, he doesn't have a whole lot else to go on necessarily.
Yep.
But that offense isn't changing that much. No one's leaving. No one's really coming in. You could make that maybe that run game will kind of get back to, more when they had Lynch. But I think that kind of helps him out, to be honest.
Yep.
So I think he's a very, very safe wide receiver. He doesn't quite have, the 14 touchdowns is great. I don't think he has that upside where you could jump him above some of the other guys, but I think he's safer than a lot of the other guys too. I think his floor is consistent.
Yeah, I agree. And Jermaine Kearse isn't going to really eat into targets. Lockett, even if Lockett's good, I don't see Lockett eating into targets. I see Lockett's more of can get big plays. He's not going to be a guy who's going to be getting 10, 15 targets, so he's not going to really affect the ball.
Right, you know what different player.
I don't think, especially this season, he's not going to be.
No.
We literally have no idea what Lockett's going to do yet.
Yeah.
I like Lockett. I've liked him in the past, but he could be done. We don't. Injuries just... Yeah, who are they going to... It's him. It's Baldwin and Graham.
Yeah, they have to throw it to him.
Nope. He's not on my list, but it's not even... this doesn't mean anything. It's just he's there. He's kind of on that borderline of where I would think of my list, but it is... And he's safe for that.
Exactly. And he's pretty high up there. And this isn't like some amazing guy down the list. Like he's a top 15 guy.
But he's a guy, he's ranked that way, but I feel like he doesn't get drafted that way.
That's why I kind of put him here, because he does have that, if you're going to get a top 15 guy, most people want that upside, that, I don't know, some kind of crazy ability, or, hey, maybe he could really jump up his touchdowns. We've seen kind of the precipice of a lot of the stuff he's going to do.
Yep. Well, yeah, I actually looked at
this. But, man, he's one of the safer guys.
I was going to say, I think he's, like, ranked that way, but he doesn't get drafted that way, and that's actually exactly accurate right now. He's ranked right now as a wide receiver, the 11th wide receiver. But in actual drafts, in actual ADP, he's getting drafted behind Hopkins and Hopkins, Cooks, and Alshon, who are all ranked below him in actual ranks. They're actually getting drafted when you actually get to an actual draft.
Right. And that's why looking at that ADP is actually very important.
They actually, get drafted. And there's in the overall ranks, if you look at overall, he's ranked 22nd, but getting drafted 30th. See, I'm telling you, he doesn't get drafted where he's ranked. Yeah. People always put him like, oh, you put Doug Baldwin there. Then you get to the draft, like, yeah, it's Doug Baldwin.
Yeah.
But he's safe. Maybe he's not your wide receiver 1, but if you have a very good wide receiver 1, he's a great wide receiver 2. Just amazing wide receiver 2.
Yeah. Someone you don't have to worry about. Just plug and play.
Okay. My number 4, I think you might not like this one either. The pure running back a little better. I put a running back on my list.
Okay.
Lamar Miller.
Really?
Yes, I did. It's safe.
Why is that safe?
Safe. I know why you're going to say it's not safe, because you think Foreman, you like Foreman. And you think
I do. I think it will eat into it.
And that is why I know you were going to be against it. I don't think so. I don't think it's going to happen.
I just feel with the draft position, too.
See, I get it. And that's why I know people are going to be against that.
Give me the reason why.
No, it's just, I think he's safe. I think he's just a safe floor player. Because I am basing it off, I do not think Foreman's going to affect him any more than Alfred Blue affected him. I think Foreman could take all those Alfred Blue carries, but Blue had about 100 carries or something. Actually, I'm going to look this up as I'm talking. I want to see exactly what Alfred Blue had. Because I believe Foreman is just going to take the Blue carries.
Tell me how many touchdowns Alfred Blue had as well.
Okay, you think he's going to be the goal line guy?
I do.
Okay, one touchdown.
One. Yeah. Have you seen the size of Deontay Foreman?
And Alfred Blue had exactly 100 carries and 420 yards, but he only had one touchdown. So that's where you think the difference is going to be.
I do. That's where I think.
But the thing is, Miller only had 5 touchdowns.
Also true, but how many carries did he have?
268.
And he still only had 5 touchdowns.
See, I think what he's going to be is, this is also based off where he's being drafted.
I guess you could say he increases his touchdowns and you know what I mean? So
if he's being drafted, let's see, where he's currently ranked, which is as a running back 12, maybe you don't want him there. But if he's going to be drafted more about where you have him ranked, 16th, I think you can go, because that's the difference here. At 16th, he's behind the Hyde and the Lynch and the Crowell like you should. Those guys are a little better value maybe. But he's safer than other guys around that 16 level, which would probably be Eddie Lacy, Christian McCaffrey, Joe Mixon, Spencer Ware, Mark Ingram. Ingram I like, but there's competition there. So if you look at where he's being drafted, he is the safe option there. Compared if he's behind those other guys, right?
You use my own ranks against me.
If he's behind Crowell and Lynch and them, not ahead of them, behind them.
Yeah, that's true.
Then he becomes when you put him up against those other guys, like, obviously the rookies Mixon and McCaffrey and like a CJ Anderson, Spencer Ware, you would say Miller is much safer. He's not special.
Yeah.
But he's safe. And again,
and the majority of my beef with Miller is because I feel like he's always drafted higher than he should.
And that's the problem. Like, he's not probably going to fall to it, but he should be your running back 3, and it's probably not going to happen.
That's true. That's true, though. But, even if they do take away carries, he probably will produce.
I'm saying, 100 carries from Blue is a lot of carries. It's not like...
And to increase his touchdowns even by a few, even to get to 8, is not that crazy, especially if he increases it through receiving, maybe.
I could see his carries dropping maybe to the 220, 230 range.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's any doubt that his carries will drop. But they could use him in the passing game a little more.
I guess a lot of this depends on if you're a Foreman guy or not.
Yeah, that's true. And I am taking kind of a leap of faith on the Foreman thing. I just think it would benefit the team, so I assume they're going to kind of do it from what I heard.
After that one, I think the rest of mine will be
I'm going to be on board. That's a good one, though.
All right, number 3, Jeff. Number 3.
All right, number 3. The same ones and this one, I feel like Actually, did I
don't know if we'll have the same, but I feel like we could.
Oh, no.
We should have at least one.
You'll like this guy.
Maybe 2.
And I don't think anyone's going to argue with me here. My number 3 is Jarvis Landry.
And he's my number 1.
Okay. And I was going to say, I decided where I was going to put this guy, but my top 3 are all very, very safe picks. Yeah, pretty much. But yeah, so you can actually help me out with this guy.
He is extremely safe. If you look at his career, it's targets. First, let's look at targets. I'm not going to worry about stats. Targets are huge. 112, 166, 131, all 3 of his years. Yes, I think Devontae Parker's a great receiver, and I think he's going to maybe take some of those targets, but not a lot.
No, I don't think he's
not like a huge target monster. I don't think. Even if he does.
This guy's a PPR, just
he's going to be.
He's really, really good. And look at the last 2 years. I mean, he's a relatively young guy, so he's only been in the league, 3 years? Yeah. In the last 2 years, he, overall on this website, overall positional rank was 15th and 19th.
Yeah. And wide receiver 2, but he's being drafted as wide receiver 3.
Exactly. He doesn't get overdrafted. That's super safe.
Yep.
You have the catches there. If his touchdowns go up, which very easily could, because he's never really scored a lot of touchdowns. I think he's around 4 usually a season, something like that. So he even has room to grow. And on a Dolphins team that everyone's waiting for Tannehill to jump up, make that, next step or whatever. But he gets so many targets. He's so safe to have.
And if he's your wide receiver 3, like he's ranked, then that's perfect. That's the perfect wide receiver 3.
And I know a lot of, people that make up rankings, everything like that, including us, you get a lot of hate if you don't put Landry up there.
We did see that.
And I totally understand that because Landry is a heck of a wide receiver and he's super safe. But, everyone worries about the upside and the touchdowns.
If we want to talk about hate, we could talk about the hate on you from Mike Evans, number 1. Did you see that?
They weren't super loving that, but Mike Evans was number 1 last year. Yeah, super safe.
Okay. But Landry is actually interesting when I'm looking at his consensus ranks versus ADP. I would think he would be higher ranked because you think you should rank him, but he gets drafted lower, and it's actually not the case. He's ranked about 23rd right now at wide receiver. He's getting drafted as the 17th receiver.
Really?
That surprised me.
Wow, I feel like last year was the opposite for him.
Yeah, I think more people maybe are.
Yeah, maybe they're catching on to that one.
But if you can keep him at that 23rd and get him as your 3rd receiver, that is just I love that option as a 3rd receiver. Yeah. Just guaranteed points. Never going to be I don't think he's going to be a big touchdown guy, but he's going to be yardage.
What I don't hate about this too is how deep wide receivers are. There's a lot of guys that have upside later on in the draft, and even his teammate Devontae Parker.
Yep.
So if you could take someone like that that's super safe, you can plug in as a wide receiver 2 even, and then get like a Martavis Bryant later on, a Devontae Parker. Take take 5 risks down there.
That's a perfect combination, like a Landry and Bryant and
Martavis. Then it might be to the fact that maybe at some point you don't even play Landry because these guys are performing, and then as soon as one goes on a cold streak, you throw them back in there. It could turn into that, but you're probably playing them.
I mean, not in every league, but in a lot of leagues, you can get the Landry Martavis as a 3rd and 4th. That's a perfect combination to me. If Bryant works out, great. You don't even have to use Landry, which is still crazy. If Bryant doesn't work, you got Landry.
Yeah.
And that's a very easy combination to get right there.
And he's a wonderful guy to have too, because if one of those guys, say Devontae Parker, blows up for a couple weeks in a row, every single person in your league will be trying to trade for him, trying to get him. So you can, keep Landry, trade Devontae Parker or whoever blew up that, is a little riskier, and then all of a sudden you're still lovely. You can maybe trade for a running back or a position that you need.
All right, my number 3 is a wide receiver. And Landry was my number 1, as I said. Landry was my number 1. My number 3 is Michael Crabtree.
He was an honorable mention for me.
And I do think Amari Cooper could break out slightly more than he did. But this offense is so good. And I think there's targets to go around. If you look at the last 2 years, his 2 years in Oakland, last year he had 145 targets. The year before he had 146 targets.
That's crazy.
Right? It catches 85, 89, 922, and then 1,003. Touchdowns 9 and 8. I mean, everything's lining up. It's a pretty consistent group right there. Even if you go back, he's always been a good target guy. Even in San Francisco, he was injured in 2013, so he didn't get the targets. But his 4 of his last 5 years, not counting that one, he had 101, 115, 127, 108 targets. He's always getting over 100 targets. Then last year's really jumped. He's still only going to be 30. That's fine for a receiver. He's not too old yet. On a great offense, not having to be the guy that everyone looks at to, defend. Yeah. He's not going to get the attention. Even Jared Cook is going to take some of the attention away. Marshawn Lynch is going to take some attention away just being on the team. I don't see how the targets even go down.
Yeah, I think he's very, very safe. I like him a lot.
And he's not being overdrafted either. He's not. He's right now, he's the 21st ranked wide receiver. Landry's 23rd. Like these kind of guys right there, 21st. He could, in a 10-team league, that's a wide receiver 3. That is a great wide receiver 3. And he's being drafted 23rd. So he's getting drafted a couple spots below because then like Landry jumps him and even Julian Edelman jumps him. But, I'd rather have Crabtree.
Yeah, Edelman, I would too.
You look around the guys, he's one spot ahead of Emmanuel Sanders. Is that even close for you?
Not with
right?
their offense where it is right now.
No, it's just not. And he's extremely safe. He's 4 spots behind Sammy Watkins. So I know the upside with Sammy.
I get that, but I would rather have a Crabtree.
But that's the thing. Like that comes down to it. If you're looking at wide receiver 2, I'm not picking Watkins over Crabtree. I'm picking Crabtree over Watkins. Maybe at a 3 if I had safer 1 and 2.
Right.
Watkins being
you go
my
for
third.
that upside.
That's you just got to base it in this. So it can't be. Yeah, we rank these guys, but it's not going to always be exactly the same in every situation. It really depends how your team's built.
Yeah, very true.
It really does. Like you can't just look at it 100%. Yeah, these ranks we like to base them off this, but not every situation's the same. So Crabtree, it just depends. If you have a little riskier team, Crabtree could jump up ahead of some guys, and I think he's a great safe option. So Michael Crabtree, my number 3.
I like that. My number 2. I feel like I cheated a bit. I did not, but at the same time, he was the number 1 tight end last year. That's why I feel like I cheated. No. But Travis Kelce actually jumps in here.
Yeah, that's a good one.
I think for a tight end in a position that is very thin, if you will, and has a couple of guys that are above him, right? Yep. Gronkowski, Reed, usually ranked ahead of him, but have huge injury risk. This guy usually plays the last 3 years he's played every game, and the last 3 years he's ranked 9th, 6th, and 1st. He only keeps getting better, and even better, he gets yardage, which he's not touchdown dependent. You can plug him in. You just know he's going to be good for the year almost. He's just as safe as they come for a position that is kind of tough to guess.
Is there another safe tight end even? Maybe Jimmy Graham, but he's not even because of possible injury risk.
He got that one bad injury, but he would probably be the next one.
I think, honestly, like safe guys you just think are going to, because Gronk, if Gronk's healthy,
the next one, but even he struggled coming down the stretch last year would be Olsen.
See, that's why I'm not going with Olsen, because
last year was rough.
I think everyone is complete. All they're doing with Olsen is they look at his overall stats. You see, okay, he finished this last year. No one's really digging deep and really thinking, oh, wait a second. Yeah, he was great at the beginning. What happened? And I guess they're throwing it off as the Carolina team. Carolina's terrible, everything. I don't know.
But if
I
that's
don't think
true,
it's safe.
Coming down the stretch when you need him for the playoffs and stuff, it wasn't there.
So that's why I like Kelce, because I think that is honestly, that is the only sure thing.
Yeah.
Right? Because Gronk's not a sure thing. He's great, but he's not a sure thing. Reed is definitely not a sure thing. Eifert's not a sure thing. Graham he's close.
Yeah, one injury.
Like I said, we talk about Olsen. Walker's no sure thing. He's starting to, there's a lot more targets that are going to be going away from him.
Mm-hmm.
Ertz, I like Ertz, but he's not a sure thing.
He was an injury risk too.
There's no sure things except Travis Kelce.
Yeah. And that's why he made my number 2.
And somebody that doesn't seem to have injury risk. But it's the NFL. Everyone has injury risk.
Right,
but it's hard to say.
He hasn't had it yet,
but anybody could. You can't say no one. You just can't say they won't.
Yeah.
My number 2 player is Larry Fitzgerald.
He was an honorable mention for me, and I knew you were going to use him.
Yeah,
so
I
please let the people know why this ageless wonder is on here.
And it's funny because it's kind of like he was starting to fall off a bit a few years ago, and it looked like he was done. And that's actually about the time I drafted him. So I'd like to say I had a hand in this for Larry Fitzgerald. It really is kind of funny because I was able to get him 2 years ago for nothing because he was done. And I wasn't even excited. It wasn't like I had this vision of Larry Fitzgerald becoming, good again. I didn't. He was cheap. He was like $6 in the auction. So I need a 4th receiver. I'll take him.
It's great.
What's happened? Why he's doing this is he's basically become a tight end in a way, the way they use him. He's never outside anymore. He's more in the slot, but even more, he's like a tight end. He blocks even. He does all kinds of stuff like that. He always catches these short passes over the middle. And because of that, last year, at 33 years old, he had 150 targets, caught 107 balls. The year before, 145 targets, caught 109 balls. That's where the change happened. Before that, the targets have always been insane. This is kind of funny. I just want to look at Larry Fitzgerald's target numbers because it's just kind of crazy. His entire career, the lowest season he ever had targets was 103.
Oh my gosh.
And that was in 2014. But he's had 115, 165, 111, 167, 154, 153, 173, 154, 156, 135, 103, then 145, 150. That is insane.
Yeah, he is. And for good reason.
And this is even bigger.
He's unbelievable.
This is a better situation than Frank Gore. They're the same age. Exactly the same age.
But he's a wide receiver.
Yeah, exactly. And he's better yet. But people always say, they have to fall off. But why?
Yeah.
Especially at wide receiver. He can play the way he plays now.
Yeah. Players like him who are big wide receivers who can play the possession game don't have to fall off. And you see this a lot.
Well, and this right here is what has happened. His catch percentage on balls thrown to him, this is where it's changed. Before the last 2 years, before he really kind of changed his place in the offense, he was always around, let's say 60%, caught 60% of the balls. His best season in all those years was way back in 2009. He had 63% of the balls caught. Except all of us in the last 2 years, 75% and 71%. That is a huge jump, and it shows you he completely changed his place in the offense. Yeah. It's a completely different thing. He's not catching he's not getting deep balls. He's catching short balls. Everything's short. Probably his yards per catch has probably gone down. Yeah, that funny thing is actually hasn't even gone down a lot because he still gets yards. He still gets everything with it, and it's crazy.
I laugh at all these because a lot of these guys, we're talking about Jarvis Landry and Fitzgerald especially, but a lot of the guys that are safe catch a lot of balls. Yep. So on top of that, if you are playing any sort of PPR, these guys are worth their weight in gold. They really are. More.
And that's just, you can look at the way he's done it. He's changed the way he plays in his offense. He's not the outside guy. They got John Brown. They got JJ Nelson. Can't remember the rookie's name. They've been praising that rookie. Like he's just I'm drawing a blank on what his name was right now.
Oh, I know who you are, but I'm not going to think of it either.
I can't think of his name. Yeah. Watch out. Chad Williams?
Oh, that might be it, yeah.
I don't know. I just might have made that up completely.
That sounds right.
It sounds good. I like the sound of it. He might be there, but he's going to be on the outside if he is. And
they're still going to use
it. It is Chad Williams. So.
Yeah, I thought it was. And Palmer's still there too, and they have such a rapport. Yeah. So
and David Johnson's going to get his catches, but Fitzgerald is their tight end, essentially. Who else? Gresham? Is it still Gresham?
Yeah.
Right. That's the thing. That's how little, we know, all the players for everybody. We don't even care about the Arizona tight end because Larry Fitzgerald's the Arizona tight end. He's going to catch balls like that. So he is my number 2 player. Who's your number?
And your number 1, we've already won.
My number 1 was Jarvis Landry, and your number 1.
So my number 1,
who I didn't have.
You didn't have.
I'm trying to think of this one.
And this one is
position?
Wide receiver.
Okay.
I think people are sleeping on it.
I must be too because I'm trying to think.
Well, it's because of the offense took a major step back the last couple of years.
Okay.
But his numbers are still good.
Are they?
He's a beast. Number 1 wide receiver.
Is he?
And it rhymes with Mamarius Thomas. But Demaryius Thomas, the number 1 for Denver.
Yeah, it's true.
Everyone knows how good he is, right?
I completely overlooked him.
He's amazing. He hasn't missed a game since 2011, and obviously his numbers have, gone down ever since Peyton Manning left. He was catching anywhere from 10 to I think 10, 14, 11 touchdowns when it was that. Obviously, their quarterback situation, way down. But even after that, the last 2 years, he had, 1,300 yards with 6 touchdowns, and then still almost 1,100 yards with 5.
And that was with a terrible quarterback situation.
Yeah, and you have to believe that it's going to get better this year.
You would think.
And you think at least
either of them has another year under their belt.
Yeah, and you think with him being so talented and being so big that his touchdown number will jump up a little bit. And if he's still getting 1,000 yards, there's no doubt whatsoever. And I think people are sleeping on him a bit because of that.
This is why. And I say, because he was the 21st ranked wide receiver last year, people were thinking he should still be a top 5, top 10. But he's not that. But he's an extremely safe wide receiver too.
Exactly. And that's what I love about it. So he goes from the 5th overall wide receiver to the number 1 overall, to the 3rd, to the 11th, to the 21st.
Yep.
The 13th to the 21st. So the last 2 years when you have rookie quarterbacks and everything going crazy, he was still the 13th and then the 21st.
He's being over. I'm overlooking. I can tell him digging into the numbers. He had still had 144 targets last year.
Yeah. So he probably will be a wide receiver 2 legit. He usually plays the whole season, so you don't have to worry about injuries necessarily. And they do have Emmanuel Sanders, but that run game is kind of in flux. You're not sure, is it C.J. Anderson, Jamal Charles going to do anything? I mean, he's their go-to. He's the consistent one, and he's a possession guy. We just talked about how large wide receivers can, and how old is he? He's only 29.
still has a couple good years left in him.
Yeah.
And all we care about is this year, so he's a good year left in him.
Exactly. So that's why he's my number one. I think he's being overlooked like crazy.
Yeah, and he's right now on the consensus ranks from Fantasy Pros. He's 1 spot behind Allen Robinson and 2 spots behind DeAndre Hopkins, and he's a much safer player than those two. I guess I can see you guys, people want upside, but I think Demaryius Thomas does have the upside too.
He does still have the
upside. He's
upside.
safe with upside because he is that good of a player. He just needs to have a competent quarterback throwing him the ball. And who knows? Maybe Paxton Lynch becomes that. Maybe Simeon becomes that. Who knows? If anybody's going to think it'll be Lynch.
Right.
I mean, at this point.
But even Simeon, even if he improves a little bit, he could easily jump back up into double-digit touchdowns. Like, he's that big. You have a couple red zone sets for him. I don't see any reason against it. I don't think he falls below a wide receiver, a back-end wide receiver 2 this year.
That was a good one because he kind of was off my radar in a way. Just kind of been. That's good because I like to talk about some of these guys that we just kind of skip and don't think about very much. And that's actually a very good one because, I think I want him ahead of Allen Robinson or DeAndre Hopkins at this point because who knows with those guys.
I know we're going to get hate for that one.
Probably.
Because everyone
loves Allen Robinson and for some reason it's still DeAndre Hopkins. We got a lot of hate about that. And I get it.
Let's be honest about DeAndre Hopkins, though. And I don't even know who the starting quarterback is.
Doesn't matter, I don't think. I think they'd be better off if it was Savage. But I think I don't know if it's going to be I don't know. I think he'd be better off, honestly, with Savage.
I do, too, for this first year. I think Watson's their future.
But to me, there's too much there. Yes, I know Denver, we're saying that, there's too much to worry about Denver. Right. We don't know. But I don't think there's too much of a difference between Lynch and Simeon. I think it's similar. They both played about the same. I don't know. It's something feels different. I guess the organization to me is why it feels different because Denver is just a great organization. And John Elway running that whole thing. He's not going to just it just feels better. You know what I mean? It just does. Better than the Houston situation and the Jacksonville situation. We just don't know.
And Demaryius Thomas really is a proven guy. He's a veteran. Mm-hmm. So absolutely.
And if he drops in the ranks at all, like if Alshon, if Cooks, if Watkins,
I'm kind of hoping he is. If you can draft him as a back end 3, if you can give him in in the 30s, that is a wonderful value.
And again, I like looking at this where they're ranked compared to where they're being drafted. He's ranked ahead of Alshon and Brandon Cooks, but they're both being drafted ahead of him.
Right.
So
that's what I kind of figured out.
All right. Is that it for our list? I think that is good. It is wide receiver heavy, but then again, that is why we over and over and over again we bring up this point. You get those running backs. There are plenty of solid wide receivers later.
Yep.
That's kind of what every time we go over this. I was looking for running backs to put on my list.
Yeah, the only one I could find was Gore, pretty much, and that's only because he had 20 years of longevity.
And I had to reach for Lamar Miller. You know?
Right, exactly.
You know what I mean? So
I got so upset.
I knew putting that down. I knew exactly what that was going to do to you. All right, well, that's it for our top 5 safe players episode. We'll be back next week with some more episodes for you. And at this point, I don't even think we have a plan. But we have all kinds of plans. We have so many episodes coming up. We'll do deep sleepers. We've got our rankings updates. We have dynasty players, rookie players to draft in dynasties, breakout players. Yet again, we'll go over it. We've done that before, but it's always a good refresher as there's a lot of new people listening, as we go on. Talk about our breakout players. Devontae Parker, number 1. Josh Doxson, number 2. Probably. I don't know. Those kind of guys, we'll just keep going through that. And obviously, we'll go through all our rankings again as we update them because I've updated mine a little bit here. Jeff needs to update his because they have changed, but it's just this dead period right now, the offseason. There's nothing going on. NFL, they're all on vacation right now. So nothing is happening to really change your ranks. We'll
update them, and then a few weeks before the draft start, we'll update them again.
Yeah, we'll probably add 2 more updates as we go on here. Get you ready. We'll probably do some strategy episodes coming up. Probably get into auction a little bit here. I like to get into auction drafts. Maybe get some auction values out there.
Yeah, get a little more nitty gritty with that.
Starting to have to actually think about. We've been talking about players and players and players. I think it's about time to start getting ready for some strategy and what you actually need to do. Because yes, we might have this guy ranked ahead of this guy, but sometimes you got to look at your situation in your draft. You don't always draft them that way. So
yeah,
it's just there's a lot of
and it's a perfect segue because we're just talking about the safe players, and you want to buoy your team with that.
Yep, and we'll get into all that. We'll have plenty of stuff for you coming up to the draft. Get you ready. But we will talk to you guys next week.